Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, another exciting episode where we uncover the fascinating stories and hidden values behind the coins you see every day. Today, we're diving into a very special and unique part of American coinage, the Jefferson nickel from the year 2004. Now, at first glance, most people see a nickel as just another 5-cent piece, small, silver-colored, and usually overlooked. But the 2004 Jefferson nickel is no ordinary coin. This year marked an extraordinary moment in U.S. coin history, a turning point where tradition met innovation, and where history itself was literally struck into metal. Let's start with the background. Since 1938, the Jefferson nickel has featured the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, it remained one of the most consistent and stable designs in American coinage. But in 2004, everything changed. To honor the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, the United States Mint launched what was called the Westward Journey Nickel Series. This series brought new designs to the nickel for the first time in more than 60 years, making 2004 a landmark year for collectors. In 2004, two brand new reverse designs were introduced. First, the piece metal nickel. This design is based on the original piece metals commissioned for Lewis and Clark's expedition. It shows two hands clasped in a handshake, one representing a U.S. soldier with a military cuff and the other representing a Native American with a traditional bracelet. Above the hands are crossed peace pipes and a tomahawk, powerful symbols of peace and diplomacy. This design captured the spirit of cooperation and cultural exchange that defined the early exploration of America's western lands. The second design from 2004 is the keelboat nickel. This shows the keelboat that carried the Lewis and Clark expedition up the Missouri River, complete with the crew rowing and the tall sails raised. This image symbolizes exploration, adventure, and determination, the very essence of America's westward expansion. These two reverses were groundbreaking because, for the first time in decades, Americans were seeing something new and different on their nickels. Collectors rushed to get their hands on them, and they remain an exciting part of modern U.S. numismatic history, but of course, not all 2004 Jefferson nickels are created equal. Some are just worth their face value, but others, because of condition, rarity, or unusual minting errors, can be worth small fortunes. Let's break down why condition is always the first factor. Most 2004 nickels circulated through millions of hands, picking up scratches, dings, and wear. These nickels will never be worth more than 5 cents. But coins that were carefully preserved in mint condition, never used in everyday transactions, can command serious value. Collectors use grading systems from poor all the way to mint state 70, and the closer the coin is to perfection, the higher the price. Then we have mint errors. Minting millions of coins every year is a complex process, and mistakes do happen. Some 2004 nickels came out with double dies, where letters or designs appear doubled under magnification. Others were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Even rarer are nickels struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a Jefferson nickel struck on a dime-sized blank or with the wrong metal. These mistakes create unique, one-of-a-kind coins that collectors will pay top dollar for, and let's not forget varieties. For example, coins minted in Philadelphia and Denver sometimes show tiny differences. Some special proof coins were also struck at the San Francisco Mint, often in silver, with gorgeous mirror-like finishes. These are highly prized in coin sets and command much more than regular nickels. The 2004 nickels are also special because they were the first major break in the long tradition of the Monticello reverse. This makes them a turning point in U.S. coinage history, adding even more collector appeal. Now imagine this. You're going through an old jar of coins, and suddenly you spot a 2004 nickel that looks different from the rest. Maybe it's shining brighter, or maybe the design looks unusual, or perhaps it feels untouched by time. You take a closer look, maybe even send it off to be graded, and the results come back. It's a high-grade mint state coin or a rare error variety. Just like that, your pocket change could be transformed into a hidden treasure worth more than most people realize, and that brings us to the big question everyone is waiting for: how much can a 2004 Jefferson nickel really be worth? While the majority are only worth face value, the rarest examples, the ones in perfect condition or struck with dramatic errors, have shocked collectors with their prices. Some of these coins have reached an incredible value of $43,500, yes, you heard that correctly. A single 5-cent piece, something most of us wouldn't think twice about, has been valued at more than $43,000. That's the price of a brand new car, a year's salary for many people, or a life-changing amount of money, all hidden in a coin that could be sitting in your pocket right now. So the next time you find a 2004 nickel, whether it's the piece metal or the keelboat design, don't dismiss it as just another 5 cents. Take the time to inspect it. Look closely at its condition, check for errors, and consider getting it graded. Who knows? That small coin could be the key to unlocking a fortune. Today, we're focusing on a small coin with a big history, the Jefferson nickel from 1975. At first glance, the 1975 nickel may look like any other 5-cent coin. You might have even spent one without thinking twice, maybe for a soda, a pack of gum, or just tossed it into a jar of loose change. But the truth is, this particular year of the Jefferson nickel carries with it both historical significance and a surprising potential value that could leave you stunned. Let's start by going back in time. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. The design featured a profile portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this design remained unchanged, becoming one of the most familiar and trusted coins in American wallets. By 1975, Jefferson nickels had already been in circulation for 37 years, quietly witnessing the changes of an America in transition. The mid-1970s were a fascinating period in American history. The country had just gone through the turbulent 1960s, the Vietnam War was drawing to a close, and people were adjusting to the economic challenges of the era. Inflation was rising, and every coin mattered more than ever. And yet, in the middle of this time of uncertainty, the Jefferson nickel remained a symbol of stability, a 5-cent piece that everyone recognized, everyone used, and few people bothered to examine closely, but collectors know that within the ordinary, there are always extraordinary treasures. And that's exactly what makes the 1975 Jefferson nickel so interesting. Let's take a closer look at its design. On the front, we have the portrait of Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag back in 1938. His profile faces left, with his hair tied back and his gaze fixed firmly forward. Around his portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," followed by the year, 1975. On the reverse, Monticello, Jefferson's elegant Virginia home, stands proudly, with the word Monticello beneath it, as well as the denomination, 5 cents, and United States of America. It's a simple, classic design, but one that has stood the test of time. Now, if you look deeper, the 1975 nickel might not seem rare at first glance. Millions were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, making it a common coin to find in circulation. But as always, rarity doesn't just come from how many coins were struck, it comes from condition, errors, and hidden surprises. Condition is the first thing collectors look for. Most of the 1975 nickels that passed through people's hands picked up scratches, wear, and discoloration. These circulated examples will never be worth much more than face value. But a small percentage of coins were carefully preserved, ending up in collections or hidden away in rolls, never seeing the wear of daily use. These pristine coins, graded at high mint state levels, are extremely desirable. Next, we come to one of the most exciting parts of collecting, minting errors. Even the best machinery can make mistakes, and when it does, those mistakes create unique coins that collectors treasure. Some 1975 Jefferson nickels are known to have double dies, where the lettering or parts of the design appear shadowed or duplicated. Others are off-center strikes, where the image is shifted, leaving a crescent of blank space on the coin. There are also examples struck with weak details, missing elements, or even wrong planchet errors, where the nickel was accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal blank. These error coins are truly one of a kind, and when collectors discover them, their value can skyrocket. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks slightly odd, something most people wouldn't notice, but that error could make it worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. Another factor that makes the 1975 nickel intriguing is the grading rarity. Out of the millions struck, only a handful have survived in the very highest grades certified by professional grading services. These coins, with flawless surfaces, bright luster, and razor-sharp detail, are the ones that set records at auctions. And don't forget proof coins. The U.S. Mint produced special proof sets in 1975 with highly polished dies that give coins a mirror-like background and frosted design details. These proof nickels were never meant for circulation and were sold directly to collectors. High-grade proofs from 1975 are especially appealing and are a must-have for any Jefferson nickel enthusiast. Now let's build the excitement. Imagine you're sorting through a box of old coins that belong to a parent or grandparent. You see a 1975 nickel at the bottom, and you're about to toss it aside, thinking it's just worth 5 cents. But then you take a closer look. The details are sharper than usual, the surface shines differently, and something about it stands out. You get it checked, and it turns out to be a high-grade mint state coin, or even better, a rare error. Suddenly, that little nickel is no longer just pocket change. It's a hidden treasure, and now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1975 Jefferson nickels will only ever be worth their face value, certain rare examples, in pristine condition or with remarkable minting errors, have sold for jaw-dropping amounts. Some of these coins have reached an incredible value of $65,800. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 5-cent coin, something most people wouldn't even look at twice, can be worth more than $65,000. That's enough to buy a luxury car, pay off debts, or even make a major investment, all hidden in a nickel you could be holding in your hand right now. So, the next time you come across a 1975 Jefferson nickel, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Take the time to study it, look at its condition, and check for errors. You never know, you might be looking at a treasure that could change your life. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history, the Jefferson nickel from the year 1964. At first, it might look like an ordinary 5-cent piece, but trust me, this coin has stories, mysteries, and a potential value that could blow your mind. The Jefferson Nickels series began in 1938 when it replaced the beloved Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side, facing left, with his sharp profile and tied back hair symbolizing both dignity and vision. On the reverse side, Jefferson's grand home Monticello is beautifully displayed, with its stately columns and dome, a tribute to one of the founding fathers of the United States. Now, what makes the 1964 Jefferson nickel so important? The year 1964 was a turning point in American coinage history. The country was experiencing a coin shortage, and the U.S. Mint produced a staggering number of nickels in an attempt to keep up with demand. In fact, the 1964 Jefferson nickel became one of the highest minted nickels of the series, with billions of them struck between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. On the surface, this massive production might make it sound like the 1964 nickel is common, and in many ways, it is. You can still find these coins in circulation today. But as any serious collector knows, rarity is not always about the number minted. It's about condition, unique errors, and the few survivors that stand out from the crowd. Let's step into the collector's world for a moment. Imagine billions of nickels being struck in 1964. Most of them were handled daily, passed through vending machines, carried in pockets, and left in drawers. These everyday nickels picked up scratches, wear, and damage that lowered their condition. But a tiny fraction of them survived untouched, stored away in rolls, bags, or collections. Those are the coins that today shine the brightest in auctions. One of the fascinating things about the 1964 Jefferson nickel is the number of error varieties that collectors chase after. Double dies, where parts of the lettering or the date appear doubled, can turn an ordinary nickel into something special. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted, create unusual patterns that collectors love. Some 1964 nickels even feature full steps on Monticello, This means that the steps at the base of the building on the reverse are fully visible and sharply struck, which is extremely rare because of the worn dies the mint used that year. Coins with full steps are considered the holy grail of Jefferson Nickels, and they can command massive premiums at auctions. Think about it for a moment. Most people who look at a 1964 nickel just see 5 cents. But if you hold one in pristine, high-grade condition, or if it happens to be an error coin, you could be holding something worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. The year itself also adds to the charm. The 1960s were a decade of change, culturally, politically, and economically. The coinage system itself was about to undergo a transformation, as silver was removed from dimes and quarters starting in 1965. The 1964 Jefferson nickel stands right on the edge of that transition, making it a coin that bridges two eras of American coinage history. Now, let's talk about grading. Professional coin grading is what truly unlocks a coin's potential value. A 1964 nickel in average circulated condition might only be worth its face value. But if it's graded at the very highest levels, with perfect surfaces, no scratches, and sharp detail, that's when its value shoots up. Add in the possibility of full steps on Monticello, and you're looking at a coin that collectors will fight over in competitive bidding wars. Imagine this scenario. You're going through a jar of old coins your grandparents left behind. You pull out a dull-looking nickel from 1964. At first, it doesn't seem like much. But then you notice how sharp the details are. You take it to a coin shop, or you send it for grading, and it comes back as a rare high-grade example. Suddenly, that dull nickel is worth more than you ever dreamed possible. That is the thrill of coin collecting, the idea that history, rarity, and condition can combine to turn something small into something extraordinary. And the 1964 Jefferson nickel is the perfect example of that magic. And now, the part you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While the majority of 1964 Jefferson nickels are only worth 5 cents, certain rare examples, especially those with exceptional mint state grades, full steps, or unique errors, have sold for staggering amounts of money at auction. The highest known examples have reached an incredible value of $103,800. Yes, you heard me correctly. A nickel, a coin worth 5 cents in the eyes of most people, has reached a value of $103,800. That's more than most people's annual salary, more than enough to buy a brand new luxury car, or even put a down payment on a house, all hidden inside a little 5-cent piece from 1964.so. The next time you see a Jefferson nickel from this year, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Inspect the details, check the steps on Monticello, and see if you might be holding onto something extraordinary. Who knows, you could be one of the lucky few who discovers that what looks ordinary to the world is actually a treasure worth more than you ever imagined. Today, we are unlocking another fascinating chapter in American coinage, one that hides within a small 5-cent piece you might have overlooked 1,000 times, the Jefferson nickel from 1987. At first glance, it might look like just another common nickel you'd find in your pocket change, but as you're about to discover, this coin carries a surprising amount of history, design brilliance, and potentially a fortune if you happen to have the right one in your collection. So, buckle up and stay with me until the end, because you'll be amazed at just how valuable one of these 1,987 nickels can truly be. Let's start with a bit of background. The Jefferson nickel has been part of America's everyday coinage since 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in the United States. By 1987, the design was already decades old, but it remained iconic. This little 5-cent piece had become a symbol of durability, practicality, and American stability. The year 1987 sits in an interesting period in U.S. history. Ronald Reagan was president, the economy was shifting into new territory, and yet, in the world of coins, the Jefferson nickel was still going strong, a daily companion in vending machines, cash registers, and wallets across the nation. On the obverse side of the 1987 Jefferson nickel, you'll find the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. His portrait looks strong and dignified, a reminder of the man who shaped much of America's early foundation. Inscribed around his portrait are the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and of course the date, 1987. Depending on where the coin was minted, you'll also see a small mint mark near the edge, either P for Philadelphia or D for Denver. Turning to the reverse side, we're greeted with the stately image of Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia. It's a neoclassical masterpiece, perfectly represented in fine detail on the coin, with the inscriptions, E pluribus unum, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. Though this design had been around for nearly 50 years by 1987, it continued to embody tradition, pride, and respect for history. Now, you might be wondering, if billions of these coins were made, why should collectors care about a 1987 nickel? That's a fantastic question, and here's where the story gets interesting. The value of a coin isn't just about how many were made, it's about how many survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, and whether there are special varieties or minting errors that set them apart from the rest. The 1987 Jefferson nickel was minted in large quantities, both in Philadelphia and Denver. Most of them went straight into circulation and were heavily used, meaning they picked up scratches, wear, and damage almost immediately. That's why the vast majority of 1987 nickels today are only worth face value, 5 cents. But for the lucky few, there exist coins that were carefully preserved, untouched by circulation, and kept in gem mint state. These are the coins that capture the attention of collectors and auction houses. Let's talk about one of the biggest collector draws for Jefferson Nickels, the full steps on Monticello. If you flip the coin over and look closely at the steps at the base of Monticello, you'll notice that on most coins, the steps are weakly struck or worn down. But on rare examples, the steps are fully visible, with sharp lines that run uninterrupted. These full-step nickels are incredibly desirable and are worth exponentially more than their common counterparts. The 1987 nickel, in high grade with full steps, is one of those hidden gems that collectors seek with passion. Errors also add a layer of excitement to this coin. Imagine finding a 1987 nickel where the strike was off-center, creating a lopsided design. Or a coin with a double die error, where the letters or numbers appear doubled under magnification. These kinds of mistakes are rare, but they make each coin unique. No two errors are exactly alike. And in the world of coin collecting, rarity equals value. Picture this: you're going through a pile of old change, maybe from a jar that's been sitting untouched for years. You spot a nickel dated 1987. At first, it just blends in with the others, but as you look closer, you realize the steps on Monticello are sharp and complete. You send it off for grading, and it comes back as a gem mint state coin with full steps. Suddenly, what you thought was pocket change turns into a treasure worth thousands of dollars. That is the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of discovering something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. Now, let's step back for a moment and think about why the Jefferson Nickels series is so loved by collectors. It's not just the design or the history, but also the accessibility. Almost everyone has held one of these coins in their hands. They are part of daily life. And yet, within that commonality lies the possibility of uncovering something rare, something that connects you not just to history, but to a hidden world of value and discovery. The 1987 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of this. It's everywhere, and yet, the right one can change everything, and that brings us to the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1987 Jefferson nickels are only worth 5 cents, rare examples in the highest grades, especially those with full steps or unique error varieties, have sold for astonishing amounts of money at auction. One particularly rare specimen has reached a jaw-dropping value of $53,300. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 5-cent coin from 1987 has been valued at $53,300. That's enough to pay for a year of college tuition, buy a new car, or even put a hefty down payment on a home, all hidden inside a little nickel that most people wouldn't think twice about. So the next time you see a Jefferson nickel from 1987, don't just toss it aside. Look closely, check the details, and see if you might be holding onto a treasure worth more than you ever dreamed. The world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and the 1987 nickel proves that even in the most ordinary places, extraordinary value can be found. Today, we're stepping back into the mid-1980s, a time of big hair, booming music, and an America filled with optimism. But tucked away in that period is a small coin that carries much bigger stories than its face value suggests, the Jefferson nickel from 1985. Now, most people look at a nickel and see 5 cents. It jingles in your pocket, it buys you almost nothing today, and it seems so ordinary. But in coin collecting, the ordinary often hides the extraordinary. The 1985 Jefferson nickel may look like every other nickel you've ever handled, but under the right circumstances, it transforms into a collectible worth thousands, and in rare cases, tens of thousands of dollars. By the end of this video, you'll understand why, and you'll hear just how high its value can climb. First, let's go back to the origins of this coin. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, it has remained one of the most enduring and iconic designs in American coinage. On the obverse, we see the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers, a writer of the Declaration of Independence, and the nation's third president. His stern, thoughtful profile reflects both intellect and determination. On the reverse, the image of Monticello, Jefferson's grand estate in Virginia, is shown in neoclassical beauty, its steps, columns, and dome capturing the essence of American history and architecture. By 1985, this design had already been around for decades, and yet it still carried symbolic weight. The mid-1980s was an era of change in America. Ronald Reagan was president, the Cold War was shifting, and the country was evolving in culture and technology. Through all that, the Jefferson nickel remained unchanged, a small reminder of continuity in uncertain times. So why does the 1985 Jefferson nickel matter to collectors? The answer lies in rarity within abundance. The Philadelphia and Denver Mint struck millions of these nickels. Most of them went into circulation, where they picked up scratches, dings, and wear almost immediately. The majority you find today are worth only face value. But a small fraction survived in pristine condition, stored in coin rolls, mint sets, or tucked away by people who simply forgot about them. Those untouched survivors are the ones collectors crave, and then there's the magic phrase that makes Jefferson nickels truly shine: full steps. If you flip the 1985 nickel over and look closely at the steps on Monticello, you'll notice that most examples are blurry or incomplete. That's because the dies used in the minting process often wore down quickly, and the details didn't strike sharply. But in very rare cases, a coin was struck perfectly, and all the steps of Monticello are crisp and complete. Collectors call these full-step nickels, and they're among the most desirable Jefferson nickels in existence. A 1985 nickel with full steps in high mint state is a prize few can boast of owning, but condition and strike quality aren't the only factors that make this coin interesting. Errors also play a huge role. Imagine discovering a 1985 nickel that was struck off-center, with Jefferson's face cut off by the rim. Or one where the die doubled the letters or numbers, creating a dramatic double die effect. Some coins even have planchet errors, where the metal blank used for striking was flawed. Each of these error coins is essentially one of a kind, and collectors will pay handsomely for them. Think about this for a moment: billions of nickels were minted in 1985. To the average person, they're all the same. But for collectors, the hunt is about finding that one nickel that stands out, whether through perfect preservation, striking errors, or those magical full steps. It's like a treasure hunt hidden in plain sight, where anyone could stumble upon something extraordinary in a jar of old change. Now, let's paint a picture. Imagine you're sorting through a collection of coins that belong to a relative. You see dozens of nickels from different years, and among them is a shiny 1985. At first glance, it doesn't look unusual. But under magnification, you notice the steps on Monticello are fully visible, sharp, and complete. You send it to a professional grading service, and it comes back as a gem mint state full steps nickel. Suddenly, what looked like pocket change is now a treasure worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. This is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's not just about the coins themselves, but the stories they carry, the history they represent, and the thrill of discovering something rare in the most ordinary of places. The 1985 Jefferson nickel embodies all of that, and now we come to the part you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1985 Jefferson nickels will never be worth more than 5 cents, there are exceptions. In the highest grades, with immaculate preservation, full steps, or rare minting errors, these coins have commanded staggering prices at auction. The most valuable examples of the 1985 Jefferson nickel have been sold for as much as $62,900, yes, you heard that correctly. A coin worth 5 cents to the average person has reached a value of $62,900 to serious collectors. That's the kind of transformation that keeps people searching through their change and digging into old jars of coins, hoping to find a hidden gem.so. The next time you come across a Jefferson nickel dated 1985, don't dismiss it. Look closely. Examine the details. Because who knows? That little coin sitting in your hand could be worth a small fortune. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the fascinating world of the 1985 Jefferson nickel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story about coins that could change your life. Remember, every coin has a story, and sometimes, even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise.